Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video we will learn how to filter or manipulate data table in Power Automate desktop using .NET script action. So please watch this video till the end so that you can understand it completely. And if you have not subscribed my YouTube channel yet, please subscribe it. So let's get started. In Power Automate desktop, under the scripting section, we have an action which is called as run.NET script action. In this, we can write a raw C# code or VB.NET code to automate a task. In today's video, we will use this action to filter the data table, and we can also manipulate the data table using this action. So today what we are going to do is we are going to use this Excel sheet from where we will read the data and then we will manipulate the data table. So what I will do is, first I will go to Power Automate desktop, and then I will go to Excel. Since my Excel sheet is already open, so what I will do is I will directly use the launch running Excel or attach to running Excel. Here I will choose the title of the or file name, and then here what I will do is I will rename the Excel instance. Then what I will do is I will use this read from Excel worksheet. From here what I will do is I will say that I want to use all available values from the worksheet, and here I will specify that the first row is having the column names. I will rename the data table variable which is going to be Excel data, and then what I will do is I will run the flow. Now what I will do is I will search the Excel, and here you can see that we have all the data which was available in the Excel worksheet. I will pin this so that I can always have it on the top. Now what I will do is I will use this run.NET script action. Here I will specify the script parameters. So first of all, I will create a data table object which is going to be named as dt excel data, and the type I will keep it as data table. I will keep the direction as in out so that I can also specify the input variable and the output variable. So for me in this case it is going to be Excel data, and then output variable also I will keep it as Excel data. So what I will do is I'll just copy this and then I will paste it here. Okay, now what I will do is I will specify the object which I created of the data table. So the object name is dt excel data. I can directly copy it, and then what I can do is I can specify the variable name which was dt excel data dot, and then I can specify the clone. So clone method is used to copy the structure of a data table into another data table. Okay, I will click on save, and then I will run the flow. So execution is successful. Now you can see that the structure has been copied to this variable. Since it is my output variable, that is why all the data has been removed and only the structure of that data table has been copied here. To get rid of the confusion, what I will do is, instead of calling my output variable as Excel data, I will name it as out underscore Excel data so that you can understand it properly. Now let's run the bot again. Now here you can see that the data which we read from the Excel worksheet is available in the Excel data variable, and the output variable which we created is out Excel data, and I'll pin it and then I will clear the search, and here you can see that the structure of the data table is here, right? Now what I want to do is I want to select the data or filter the data from that data table. For that, what I will do is I will use the select method of the data table, and then here I will specify the filter condition. In my Excel sheet, what I want to do is I want to filter the data where role in company is analyst. Okay, I will go back to the Power Automate desktop, and here I will specify the column name as role in company. Since my column name is having the space in between, that is why I am writing the column name in the square bracket, and then I want to say that role in company is analyst, right? So I specified the equal to operator, and then analyst I have put it in the single quotes because it is a string. Now what I will do is I will click on save, and then I will run the bot. Now here you can see that it is giving an error which is cannot implicitly convert type system.data.data row, which is a collection, to data table. To get rid of this error, what I will do is I will go open the run.NET script action. Here I will create a variable of data row type. Okay, now what it is going to do is, since my select function is going to return the collection of rows, and that needs to be stored in the data row collection, right? And then since I want to see how many rows has been filtered there, what I will do is I will create a variable, and here I will name it as number of rows, and because the select function is going to return me the list of rows, so I will choose the list here, and here in the output variable I will keep the direction as out, and I'll name the variable as list of rows. So the moment you will press tab, automatically percentage sign will be added, right? Now I will click on done. Now what I will do is I will come here and say that store all the rows in the number of rows so that I can get to see it. I have assigned all the rows into the number of rows list variable. Now I will click on save and then I will run the bot. You can see that the execution has succeeded this time. And let's search for that variable. So out variable which I had created is list of rows. So I will search list of rows. I'll pin it and then I'll see that I have got two rows, right? Where the first name is John, last name is Smith, and the second row is Doe and Derek. Same thing you can see in the Excel sheet as well. Here you can see that it has been able to filter the data properly in the data table. Now let's say you want to add these filtered rows into another table. For that, what you will do is you will create a variable and let's name it as filtered data, and let's name it as dt underscore filter data. Type should be data table, direction should be out, and here you can name it as dt filter data. And then you can click on done. Now what we can do is we can create a for each. So I'm going to create for each loop. Since I'm going to do the iteration on the collection of rows, so I'll create a variable of data row, and this for each loop is going to work on dr. It can also work on the number of rows. I'll use the curly bracket and then I will write the code to insert the data into another table which is dt underscore filter data. Now here what I will do is I will use this variable dt filter data dot, and there is a function which is called as import row, and in that I will specify the row which is dr1, and then I will click on save, and before clicking on save I will specify the semicolon because that is important in the C# code. And then what I will do is I will run the flow. It has generated an error. Why it has generated an error? Because we did not create an instance of it. So before that, what we will do is we will use this dt filter data, and then I will use this data table to copy the structure in this data table. So dt underscore filter data equals to dt excel data dot clone. So this will copy the structure from the dt underscore excel data to the dt underscore filter data. Now I will click on save and I will run the flow. Flow has run successfully. I'll look for the variable which is dt underscore filter data, and here you can see that all the filtered rows has been copied to the another data table, right? I'll pin it so that it is available on the without applying the search. So this is one way of adding the filtered data or filtered rows into another table. Another method to add rows into a data table is that we can use item array property, right? So what we will do here is we will write dt underscore filter data dot rows dot add, and then here what we have to do is we have to provide the variable of data row data type which is dr1, and then dot item array, then I'll put a semicolon, and now I will run the flow. And now as you can see here that it has been successfully able to add those two rows into dt underscore filter data table, right? There is third method to add rows into another table. In that case what we will do is we will make it as comment, right? To comment the code we have to use // and that line will be commented. Let's say you want to add rows into a data table using dt underscore filter data dot rows dot add, and then here you have to provide the column names, right? So our object or the variable is dr1. In that I want to specify the column name which is first name. Similarly I'll specify dr1 last name. Like this I'll specify the third parameter which is company name, and then it is role in company, and then it is address. You can check these columns into your Excel file, right? And then you can specify your column name as email, and last one is phone number, right? If you go back to your Excel file you will see that the column names are defined in the same order, and here you can see that it is defined in the same order as we specified in our code. Okay, so let's run the code and see if it is working. I'll right click and say run from here. You can see that all the rows have been added into the dt underscore filtered data table. Okay. And there is one more method that we can use to add rows. So what I will do is I will comment all these line of codes till here. Okay. I'll create a for loop and I'll initialize the variable I with 0, and then I is less than, I will use number of rows dot count, because this is the variable which is having the number of rows, and then I plus plus to increment the variable, and then I will write my code. I want to add data into the dt underscore filtered data, and then I will specify rows dot add, right? So add is the function where I will specify the index of the columns. So here what I will do is I will say number of rows, and our index will be there in the I variable, then dot item array. I'll put semicolon, and then I will click on save, and now I will run the flow. It has thrown an error because we did not specify the parenthesis in the count function. I will click on save, and then I will run the flow. Instead of number of rows, I will use dr, because dr is the one which is having the all the rows. So I'll click on save now, and then I will run the flow. Now you can see that it has been able to add the rows into the dt underscore filtered data. Consider a scenario where you want to delete certain row columns from your data table. So let's say what we did is we filtered the rows, and then all the rows have been stored in the dr variable, which is of data row, right? And then we added these rows into the dt underscore filter data, right? Now what we want to do is we want to remove certain columns from the table, which is dt underscore filter data. So this can be done in two ways. One is that we can specify the index of the column that we want to remove, and second one is that we can specify the name of the column. So how do we do that? For that, what I will do is I'll take this column, I will take this data table, and then I'll specify columns dot remove at, and then I'll specify the index. Consider that I want to remove the first column, so I will specify 0, and then I'll specify the semicolon, and let's do another way, which is dt underscore filter data dot columns dot remove, and here what I will do is I'll specify the column name, which is company name. Now what I will do is I will click on save, and then I will run the flow. It has generated an error because we did not mention as columns. It should be columns.remove and columns.remove. These are the two functions that we can use to remove the columns from the table. Now I will right click and say run from here. Here you can see that it has been able to execute the code successfully. I will check the data table, and here you can see that I do not have a column which is named as first name, and I do not have the column which is named as company, right? So these are the two ways using which you can remove the columns from your data table, right? Let's say you want to filter your data table, and also you want to specify the order of the column, right? You want to sort the data in that data table. Consider that I want to sort the data based on the company name. Okay, for that what I will do is I'll specify the column name, which is company name. For ascending order we use ASC, and for descending order we use DESC. Okay, let's click on save, and let's run the flow. It has generated an error because we have wrapped the column name into the square bracket. So what we will do is we will remove it, and then I will run the flow. I will right click and say run from here. Now you can see that the data has been sorted and it is in descending order, right? If you see the list of rows, here also you can see that it has been sorted in the descending order because the company name is starting with T. Now let's say if you want to filter the data based on more than one column, so I can use the operator. I can use AND operator, I can use OR operator, right? So let's say I want to use the OR operator, and the another column which I want to use in my case is company name, and here I want to specify the condition, so I'll put that into a single quote because the entire expression is already wrapped in the double quotes. I'll go to my Excel file and find out a company name. So let's say I want to filter a company which is having the name as IT Solutions. Okay, or let's say I want to filter the company name which is having the Medicare. I'll go back to the Power Automate desktop, and here I'll specify the condition which is Medicare. And this time what I will do is I will comment these two line of code because I do not want to remove the column names. I will click on save and then I will run the flow. Now here you can see that I have two company names, which is, so the filter condition was that either it has the role in company as analyst or the company name is Medicare. So you can see that we have the two rows which is having the role in company as analyst and the two rows for the Medicare company name, right? So you can filter you can apply filter based on multiple columns, and also you can sort the data in ascending or descending order. So as you can see here, it has been sorted into the descending order because the company name is starting with T, then M, and then I, right? So that is the condition that we've specified into the select function. I will click on close. Now let's do one thing. Let's add a column into your tt_excel data. To add a column, what I will do is, first of all, I will create an object of data column, which is tt data column dc is equal to new data column, and the column name which I am going to give is result. So the object name you can keep it as of your choice, so that is not a problem. And let's say you want to add this column into the dt_excel data. So what I will do is I will use dt_excel data dot columns dot add, and then I'll specify the object name, then semicolon. Okay, and now let's run the flow. And here you can see that you have one more column added, which is result, correct? And same thing you can see in the out_excel data. So we are having a column which is named as result. Let's say you want to apply some, let's say you want to concatenate your first name and last name, and you want to keep it in the result column. Okay, so what you will do is you will create a variable like full name And here what you want to do is you want to specify number of rows, and the index should be 0 dot to string, and then I will use the concatenation which should be separated by space, and the last name which is going to be number of rows, and then I'll paste it here. The index which I'm going to specify is 1, because this is going to have, so number of rows of 0 dot to string is going to have the first name, and number of rows at one index is going to have the last name. And now what I want to do is I want to specify number of rows of the row, and the column name which I want to specify is the result, and it should have the value as full name. Similarly, here also I'll have to specify the row index. So for that I will use the I, and here I'll specify the I. So I is basically holding the row, and 0 and 1 is the position of the column, right? Now what I will do is I will click on save. Now I will run the flow. And let's check the date_filter data. And here you can see that we have the result which is having the full name of the customer, right? So this is how you can perform the, or you can apply the formula into your column. And let's say you have another data table. Okay, so what I will do is I will create a data table. I just want to show you how you can use the copy function. Okay, so I'll click on add a new parameter. Here I will say that copied data table. The type of it I'm going to keep it as data table, and the direction is going to be out, and I'll give the same name for the output variable, so which is copied data table, and I'll take this copied data table to use it inside my script action. So now what I will do is I will specify the object which is copied data table equals to dt_filtered data and dot copy. So this function, what it will do is it will copy entire data which has been stored in the dt_filtered data dot copy to the copy data table. I will click on save, and then I will run the flow. Now I will search the copy data table variable, And here you can see that the entire data which was available in the dt underscore filter data table has been copied to copy data table variable. So this is how you can use the copy function to copy the data table. So we have another method to clear the data from the data table, and for that what we can do is we can just call the clear function to clear the data. For example, I have filtered the data and stored it into the dt underscore filter data. Once it is done, I want to clear the dt underscore excel data table. For that, what I will do is I will just take that variable and call the clear function to clear the content from the dt underscore excel data. I will right click and say run from here. So it is giving the error which is parameters copy data tables cannot be set to null. So we have to make sure that it is not null. To do that, we can do one thing, which is either delete this or we can set a value for that. So what I will do is, for now I will just delete it. I will click on done and then I will click on save and run the flow. So here we are getting an error because we are trying to clear the data which we have got from the data underscore excel data. So the parent data table itself we are trying to clear. So that is why it is giving error. So what I will do is, instead I will use the data underscore filter data and then I will click on save and then I will say run from here. This time you can see that data underscore filter data has been cleared. So this is how you can filter the data table using the .NET script action. You can add rows into the table, you can clear the data table, you can copy the structure from one data table to another data table, you can remove the columns, and you can sort the data table values. If you like this video, please click on the like button and please subscribe my YouTube channel, and if you have any question, please post it in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.